Okay, now we're gonna, in this section of the video, now we're gonna start working and trying to simplify some. So let's try one. What is 24x cubed y squared over negative 6x squared y cubed in simplest form? State any restrictions on the variable. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to factor out our greatest common factor. And we find that 6x squared y squared is our greatest common factor. You have it both in the numerator and in the denominator. We're going to simplify that. And we find out that its simplest form is going to be negative 4x over y. Now, to state any restrictions, we have to look at where is our denominator equal to 0. So we know that our denominator will equal 0 at y is equal to 0, but we also go back to the original equation. We also go back to the original equation and look and see when that might equal 0. So we find that x is not going to be able to equal 0 and y is not going to be able to equal 0. Whenever you're simplifying a rational expression, once you solve it, you have to go back to the original equation and make sure that any zeros in the denominator are accounted for. Let's look at another one. We're going to simplify and state any restrictions on x squared plus 2x minus 8 and x squared over x squared minus 5x plus 6. The first thing that we're going to do is factor both the denominator and then the numerator. Notice here that x minus 2 and x minus 2 are a common factor to both the numerator and denominator. We cancel those out or simplify them, reducing them to 1. And our rational expression in simplest form is x plus 4 over x minus 3. We know now that x cannot equal 3. Your denominator can never equal 0 because at that point it becomes undefined. So now we have to go back and look at the original denominator and see what else might make it equal 0. We know the factored form is x minus 3, x minus 2. And so we know now, therefore, that x cannot equal 3 and x cannot equal 2. Those are the 2 points that make it equal to 0. We're going to look at one last example. Is 12 minus 4x times over x minus 9, x squared minus 9 in simplest form. First thing we do is factor. And here I want you to remember the power of factoring out a negative 1. Sometimes all it takes is just factoring out a negative 1 to make your whole expression easier to simplify. Once we did that, then we were left with an x minus 3 in the numerator and an x minus 3 in the denominator, and we could simplify. We end up with x cannot equal plus or minus 3. So these are some examples that will help you with the worksheet that is on Orbund. There are only 10 problems. You ought to be able to complete them fairly quickly. I want you to show your work where they're factored and then how you're canceling out. And that's important. Don't bring me a piece of paper tomorrow with just 10 answers on it. Bring me the paper that has the factoring on it, and we will go over them in class and continue with some more difficult ones.